You plan the day, you want it to go well, and instead you end up frustrated, short-tempered, and feeling guilty. The moment is gone, and all you can think is, I blew it again. If you know that feeling, you're not alone, and this episode is for you. Hey, Christian Care Companion. Welcome to Dementia Caregiver Support for Christians, the podcast that we talk with Bible-believing caregivers who are tired of feeling resentment creeping in and want to find peace in the middle of these hard days. Caregiving is not an accident. It is a part of how God is calling you to love faithfully in this season. In today's episode, you'll hear a conversation with Leanne. We talk about why frustration rises when expectations don't match reality and what you can do to walk away with peace instead of guilt. And if you're looking for a place where you do not need to figure this out alone, I'd love to invite you into our brand new community, the Christian DigniCare Society. It is a private, faith-centered community where you'll find monthly opportunities to ask questions, some live coaching, workshops, encouragement, prayers from other believers who are in the same position as you, and a place to belong that is not on Facebook. It is a one-time investment of $97 for lifetime access. You will find the link in the show notes, and I'd love to welcome you inside this community. So now let's get into our conversation with Leanne. All right, Miss Leanne. So I'm going to take you through the process. If you looked back 6 months from today, what needs to have happened for you to be able to say that it's actually gotten easier, that you have stewarded your caregiving, your health, and your relationships well? What needs to change?
I think if I became less frustrated,
Okay.
if I could just have less moments of those situations where I feel like I've blown it. And I guess I would say have more patience.
Okay.
I would be much.
So then you will know that things are going to be a little bit easier. Okay, so less frustrated, less opportunities for blowing it. You know, we all blow it, right? And so what do you feel might actually be getting in the way of that?
I think sometimes I know I have this grand idea of what's supposed to happen. Like, I'm going to go get her and we're going to have this fabulous day. And then we don't have a fabulous day, or I'm completely overstimulated, or I feel like I've just given more than I had to give. And I snap, whether it just be saying, just being short patience and just saying, no, we can't do that. Or just using a tone with her. And then I feel like, well, that had good intentions, but at the end of the day, if I felt like I was aggravated with her, I feel like I've blown the whole day. So I guess situations like that.
Okay, so would you say, Leanne, overcommitment on your side or overcommitment on whose side?
I say it was a mixture of both, because my mother-in-law, I feel like I can solve her problem, but then sometimes she doesn't want them solved. So I'll go with the best intentions thinking, okay, I'm going to take care of all this, but then she creates more issues. She's always been the type of person that if everybody in the momentum was going forward, she would want to stop the momentum of the group. Does that make sense?
It does. And now, if it would be okay with you, can you give me either a scenario of what it is that you're describing related to that, where you say you feel like you mentioned that you know that you can fix the problem. So what kind of problem are you going in to fix, and then that she is creating more issues. Can you expand on that for me?
Yeah, so the most recent scenario, and they're all kind of similar. It's all the same cycle of she wants to get out of the assisted living. I want her out of the assisted living. I want to incorporate her in our lives, but she makes it difficult. So we had a birthday party or a very short hour long get together for one of our kids, and I invited my mom, and then I had one of my kids go pick her up from the assisted living and bring her to my house. And we were going to do cake and ice cream, and it was going to be a fun thing. Now, I didn't have to incorporate her, but I know she'd want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
She'd be hurt if she knew that was happening right a mile down the road. And I knew that the child would think it's important to have her grandmother there because she
Mm-hmm.
wanted family there. But the effort it is to have a party and cook and everything and then have her there, she's not recognizing anything but her own needs.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? She holds up her purse. Where do I set this? And then the focus isn't on the birthday person. The focus is on her, even though the momentum of the party is focused on the birthday girl. And then there's a slew of complaining of this isn't the type of food I eat,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. And then at the end of the day, when you've tried to have a birthday party it was a small birthday party. It wasn't even a big thing. It was just cake and ice cream and a little bit of food. At the end of the day, you're just exasperated. And it was only 2 hours. It wasn't like it was a whole big shebang. It was a very small birthday party. But at the end of the day, you're like, okay, what did I need to change next,
Okay.
for this not to happen? Because that was completely overwhelming.
Okay. Overwhelming for her or overwhelming for you?
I think it was both.
Okay.
If she gets nervous or anything, she's constantly in the bathroom,
Okay.
and that was also a thing too. So I think it was both.
Okay. So would it be okay if I kind of unpacked it a little bit for you?
Hmm.
Okay. So you said she's in assisted living,
Yeah.
right? And do you know exactly like in her journey where she is in the different buckets? I call them buckets. People, you can call them stages. I like buckets a little bit better because I'm not looking to stage people. I'm just trying to kind of figure out where we're at, right? So, bucket number one is when a person is still typically living alone. They may still be driving. They're starting to make errors, but on the whole, they're still sequencing themselves through all of their self care. They're not making too many errors. And unless you have a history or a background in working with people with cognitive impairment, you may not necessarily know unless
Hmm.
you know. And so quality is really good, but things are starting to fall apart and become evident to other people that something's going on. That's bucket number one. Bucket number two is that in between bucket where the person is now really starting to have a hard time doing things by themselves. If they were left alone, quality starts to go away. So when they were entirely by themselves, you could tell they're not brushing their hair in the back or they're not sticking you know, their appearance starts to change because they're skipping steps. Hygiene is starting to go away because they're not able to complete their tasks. That's the middle bucket. And the last bucket is when the person is needing both the physical assistance in getting dressed or, feeding themselves. And it's the combination between the physical and the thinking that come together, and they are needing somebody with them 24 hours a day. Now, based on what I've heard, she's in either bucket one or bucket two. Which one would you put her in?
She's definitely in two. She's
Okay.
past one, and two, and just this week I found her in a dirty mess, hair
Okay.
greasy, and I thought, well, this is new. That was just this week. And then she also had nothing in her dirty clothes basket.
Okay.
So,
She's
but she had a different outfit on. So she
okay.
was returning dirty clothes and underwear back to drawers in the closet. So that was new this week.
Okay. So that gives me a very good idea of kind of where your mother-in-law is. And what something that I know, based on having done this for many, many years, is that when a person starts to get to that specific spot where they're starting to skip steps and they're not able to identify that their own clothes are dirty, they take it off and they just put it on the bed or in, the whatever, and then they see it in the morning, they get dressed. That is the one of the harder stages because they're starting to have these actual changes, but they're not able to always accept help from another person. And where
Yeah.
frustration comes in, frustration is on one of two extremes. Frustration from the family caregiver comes in when the expectation is the person should be over here, they should still be doing this. But the reality is that they're functioning at a lower ability. So they're having more difficulty. That is where some frustration comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Another place where frustration comes in sometimes for the person who is living with dementia is when they are actually functioning here, but everybody is assuming they're functioning here and we take things away. So frustration can come in one of two ways. Your expectations of where things should be versus the reality, or vice versa. She's really here, but we're taking things away. Based on what you've expressed, which one do you think we are possibly contending with her in specific?
I think it's a mixture of things because I battle with her personality before this was so codependent that sometimes I think I don't I don't know. Sometimes I think, well, before dementia, she would rely on people too much. And, why doesn't she do this on her own? Or, you know what I mean? And I just need to remind myself that, now it is. She obviously is in dementia. This is not personality. This is a brain disorder. But I do think my expectations probably, I'm not keeping up with the disease process. The disease process that I've seen in the past 8 months when she's been in my life, it feels like it's moving super fast on the
Mhm.
decline. And
And
so,
and possibly could be there.
my expectations probably are too high. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because they're dipping down so fast. And asked the doctor about it this week,
Mhm.
and he said that he noticed that it was very rapid, and for the first time, he used the word Alzheimer's.
Okay. So that is very helpful. Knowing what it is helpful from a medical perspective. And at the same time, from a functional perspective, it's not helpful at all. Because the reality of what is happening is we're a step behind all the time.
Yeah.
So back to your question about like feeling frustrated and getting to the point where things are falling apart, like with this birthday party. A strategy that I teach all of my clients to use, I'm going to teach you two strategies to consider. The first one, I call it the peace framework or the peace plan, whatever you want to call it. The P stands for the person living with dementia. The E stands for the environment of whatever's going on. The A stands for activity, either participation or not participation. So either overstimulated or understimulated. The C stands for caregiver, care partner contribution, what we have contributed to the situation. And the E stands for evaluate and educate. So, in light of the scenario of the birthday party, let's just unpack it a little bit for you so that this is not to blame you, but it's an example that we can use that then you have something to hang things on to start to look at a situation and put together the pieces of what might actually be contributing to what's going on. So let's talk about your mother-in-law, right? So the person, she is starting to have difficulty with following sequences and getting overwhelmed when things are out of the norm. So what's going on with her? The environment, it's a birthday party. Even though it's a small gathering, there's social norms. There's a lot going on. You're distracted because your focus is on your daughter, rightfully so, for her birthday.
Yeah.
We've got this other person that the environment could be contributing to. The environment could be contributing to her feeling anxious because she doesn't know what to expect. Activities, right? So she's not normally in such a busy environment and now it's super busy. And then C, it's your daughter's birthday and you're stressed because you're focused on your daughter, not on your mother-in-law. And then all of those things together then contribute into a perfect storm. So for example, that's the one thing. Every situation, everything that happens in these quote unquote responsive behaviors that people have, if you run it through that piece, person, environment, activity, care, companion, contribution, like what did I bring to the table? What was going on in me? And then you evaluate the situation. Over time, if you keep doing that, you'll start to pick up on the things that are contributing to the situation. One of the hard so that was the first part of it. The second part of it, Leanne, is something that I teach people to do, and it takes some time. People who practice this routinely, it takes about 60 days. It takes about 2 months to actually learn how to do this. And it can be super frustrating because we want to, and when I tell you this, you're going to know why it gets super frustrating. But it almost doesn't matter whatever the person is saying. If she says, "Where do I put the purse?" Just tell her where to put it. What do I do now? Just tell her what to do. Just supply the information, because a person who is not having the frame changes will be able to figure it out on their own. So when she doesn't know, she doesn't know. So our normal response is to think, but you should know that because she did used to, right? And to feel frustration because we're having to supply the information that it once you train yourself, it literally doesn't matter what comes out of her mouth. If she says, "Well, what day is it?" and you've said to her, "It's Saturday, August the 23rd" for 30 times,
Yeah.
the 31st time you say cheerfully, "It's August the 31st," or the 23rd, "It's Saturday." Just cheerfully always supply whatever answer to whatever question she has. Because when we do that, one of the biggest mistakes I made with my mom was at the beginning, not recognizing that she was having these cognitive changes, was I said these words, "But I told you before."
Yeah.
We just talked about it. And I believe we create anxiety for people. So my request to you would be to try to use the framework, the peace framework that I just taught you, and everything that happens, run it through that. What's going on with her, possibly? Is she tired? Is she overwhelmed? Is she hungry? Is she cold? Is she hot? Is she whatever, right? What's going on in the environment? What could have contributed? Was it super noisy? Was it very cold? Was it very hot? Was it like we went for a walk outside, and the next moment she just went whoosh, right? What happened? What was going on in the environment? Was there too much activity, or has she been bored out of her soul? See, what did I bring to the table? Because I was tired, frustrated, annoyed, overwhelmed, whatever, and then evaluate it. And when you start to do that for yourself, and then the second part of it is just cheerfully answer the question like it's the first time every single time. It will radically improve your communication with her. So, Leanne, what's one takeaway for you today? What's one thing that you can do and take action on from our conversation today?
Mhm. Well, I do know I'm better than I used to be. I'm better than I was just a couple months ago. But I do need to work on um, still being cheerful with the repetitiveness. Because, I'll answer her, but then I'll just get really flat. And then I'll just go to acting like I don't hear her. So, I know that's not helping. So I do need to work on that, just not to let that drain me.
For sure. And thank you so much for joining our new community. And I'm super excited that you came to today's call. And thank you for being in my world. What I want everybody to do is just really know that this is designed for you guys to actually take action on the information that you get. This is not just designed for just information. It's really, I want people to be able to take action on the information that they get. People who are really benefiting from the community are the people who joined earlier on before they need it, and that have been active and are participating in the community, because then they already know what questions to ask and they have a place to come, and they're not constantly wondering, what do I need to do? How do I need to do it? So people listening are interested in tapping into or learning about the community. I'd invite you to just go to the website, thinkdifferentdementia.com. There's a link for you to schedule a 20-minute call. There's no pressure. I'll serve you regardless of whether you join the community or not. But it is a way for you to take this relationship a little deeper, a little bit more hands-on support, because really the research also shows it's longitudinal support over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. I would highly recommend Lizette. She's awesome.
Tracy, I appreciate that endorsement.